Hello, my name is Am, and welcome back to my channel. Alright, man, Shingeki Day. Last episode. Last episode finally got to the basement, and I felt that it was thoroughly satisfying. I always felt that it's going to expand the series by, giving us some much needed information, knowledge, and information, right? And I certainly got that. Now it appears that I was only scratching the surface, but it was still more than enough to just blow my mind and really change the landscape of the series as well, right? I said there's always going to be before the basement and after the basement. So let's see how this plays out. And if they do go right back into that, or if they kind of segment that and kind of drop that in the next three episodes, go in and out, present time and flashback. Let's see how they structure it. But before I get into that, if you're interested in full length for this, or maybe even early access to the next episode right now, consider checking out the Patreon page, and in doing so, you'll be supporting the channel. There's also other content, so check out some of the different listings there, see if something catches your eye. Consider subscribing to the channel. There's a schedule in place now, and everything is on its own specific day. So yeah, if you do enjoy my content, support the channel by subscribing to the channel. And the links to the Patreon page and my social media are in the pinned comment. And also the pinned comment sometimes has updates, so please check that out from time to time. And if you have a question, sometimes, best bet is probably to check out the pinned comment first. It might answer your question before you even ask it. So yeah, I think that's about it. Let's get right into the episode. Oh, beautiful. I love this presentation. Yeah, this does not need that intro. Sayama-san.
外出許可証を見せろ。
持ってません。
無許可で市内に入ったんだな。
Shit. Oh.
もう一発だ。まったく容赦ねえな、クルーが。ほら、ジョーちゃんは先に帰ろうね。
No.
腕章を外さなかったことは賢い。たとえガキでも腕章を外したエルディア人は楽園送りだからな。
Eldia.
もう帰ります。
待て。
Paradise.
妹は翌日川で発見された。
私があの子を送ったのはレベリオの手前までだ。そもそもエルディア人の子供が許可もなく町をうろつくのが悪い。お前の息子は一族の立場をよく理解していないようだが。
今から1820年前、我々の祖先ユミル・フリッツは大地の悪魔と契約し巨人の力を手に入れる。ユミルは死後も9つの巨人に魂を分けエルディア帝国を築いた。ユミルの民は他の民族を下等人種と決めて
Subjects of Ymir?
はじめ当時のエルディアの王はこのパラディ島に三重の壁を築き
It's the name of the island.
共にそこへ逃げ込んだ。我々の祖先は見捨てられこの大陸に取り残。
私が己の道を見つけたのは18の時。何の考えもなく父の診療所を継ごうとしていた。
Ah, his father was a doctor as well then.
これは同胞の証です。
Patriot.
同胞？あなたの妹はマーレ当局の男に殺された。我々にはマーレ政府の内通者がいます。
Sleeper agents, baby.
いい話をお聞かせしましょう。
妹の事件の真相を知った時、心に誓った。本当の悪魔はどちらか教えてやる。我々の祖先がやったことは正しかったのだ。マーレ政府の内通者はフクロウと呼ばれ、姿を見せることなく復権派を導いた。
我々の始祖ユミルは巨人の力に目覚め、荒れ地を耕し、道を作り、峠には橋を架けた。人々を豊かにし、この大陸を発展させたんだ。
俺たちが教わった歴史は全てモーレに都合のいい法則。
しかしグリシャ、
いや、まだほとんど解読できてないんだ。
でもなぜ真実が分かった？なぜなら俺は始祖ユミルを信じている。
皆さんはじめまして。私はダイナ・フリッツと申します。
Is that
王家の血を引く者です。
私は運命に導かれるままにその身を委ねた。彼女は大陸に存在する王家の末裔の最後の一人であり、王家だけが持つ巨人の情報を
Holy shit
もたらした。間違いない。王が壁の中に持ち去った始祖の巨人、これさえ手にすれば他の巨人全てを支配し、マーレを打ち滅ぼすことができる。
しかしそのような絶対的な力を持っておきながら、なぜ島まで退くことに。
good question?
戦うことを否定したからです。
Pacifist stance?
当時の王は巨人大戦時、大陸内の力の均衡を保つという役目を放棄し、辺境の島に都を移したのです。
始祖の巨人をお納めするのだ。王子諸君よ、マーレを打倒しエルディアの誇りを取り戻すのだ。
That's her.
翌年、私たちは結婚し男子を授かった。名はジーク。王家の血を引く子だ。
He has royal blood.
私たちを勝利に導いてくれるぞ。時代は移り、人は変わる。世の中が急速に発展してゆく頃、エルディア復権派は転機を迎える。マーレ政府が我々ユミルの民から7つの巨人を継承する器としてマーレの戦士を募ったのだ。しかし壁の王が80年前に言い残した言葉がある。今後我々に干渉するなら、壁に潜む幾千万の巨人が地上のすべてを平らにならすだろう。この脅威が健在であるうちは
That's why they had to send him.
できない。つまりマーレ政府の目的は我々と同じ。壁内に侵入し始祖の巨人を奪還することである。
このままじゃマーレに先を越されてしまう。そうなったらもう永久にエルディアは日の目を見れないぞ。
Said
いや、手段は残されている。我々の息子ジークをマーレの戦士にするのだ。
he's got a monkey in his
いい
hand.
かジーク、マーレの人間が言っていることは全て間違っている。だがお前は誰よりもマーレの教えに従
Is
順
this
に
the brainwashing he was
従わなけ
talking
れば
about?
ならない。
エルディアの屈辱はあなたが晴らすのよ。
わかった。
Oh man, he. Whoa.
しかし私は知っていたはずだ。親が子を自らの思想に染め上げる罪深さ。
Sins of the father.
王家の血を引く子でもエルディア復権の希望でもなく、ジーク自身と向き合ったことが一度でもあっただろうか。何にせよジークは自らと祖父祖母の安全を選んだ。愚かな良心をマーレ政府に差し出すことと引き換えに、ここが楽園。
エルディア人反逆者の流刑地パラディ島。お前たちはここで終身刑となる。
Isn't.
無垢の巨人となってな。
Oh my. Oh.
もう一本行こう。
It is the same guy.
さっさと歩け。
Is this the same wall as Ymir?
クライス、なんでジークが俺たちを密告するんだ。お前の息子だろ。
He's a kid though.
どんどんやっていこう。
This is the spot. Bro, that's Santa Titan. I'm so sure of it. And even the other guy looked familiar. Yeah, Santa Titan.
こいつにはまだ尋問したいことがある。
Is this-
先に進めてくれ。
Holy shit, is this guy the owl?
もったいねえ悪魔の血じゃなきゃな。
She is the smiling Titan. He's the owl.
こいつがもみ消したのか。
They don't know she's royal.
巨人にして黙らせろよ。
グリシャ、私はどんな姿になってもあなたを探し出すから。
Holy.
怖い夢でも見たの、エレン。
He was reliving memories.
今さ、私はって言った。
言ってた。泣いてるの、エレン。
She asked him that in episode 1.
夢じゃねえ。記憶だ。今、親父の記憶とつながった。お前だったんだな。大二だ。
Oh my god.
15年前、8歳の妹を犬に食わせたのはお前だろ。
お前ら先に船に戻ってろ。
あ、了解です。
Back to the ship so they do get closer to the island.
なんでってそりゃ面白いからだろ。でも人は残酷なのが見たいんだよ。平和ってのは大変結構なことだが、何か物足りんのだろうな。それが生き物の正常な思考なの
It's
だ。
like clocking the
俺はその日を受け入れる心構えがある。なぜならこうやって残酷な世界。見ろ、あれがお前らの正体なんだぜ。巨人の脊髄液を体内に吸収しただけ
It's
で
the Titan.
化け物になる。ほら、妹が読んでるぞ。
Yes! This guy's the owl. Holy shit. Your time has come now. That's the same look he had in the season 1. That inquisitive look.
俺がフクロウだ。覚えておけよ、グリシャ。巨人の力はこうやって使う。
Holy shit, that's Eren Titan. No. That is insane. That is monumental. Isayama-san. The smiling Titan, the lady from the photo. Zeke is royal blood. And Grisha. So I suppose my theory was correct. There was another side that was trying to get the founding Titan before the warrior crew. Man, there is so much to unpack. So much to unpack. So, oh god. So all of the warrior crew is they're the same people, from the same race. Jeez. Right then. Yeah, that... Man. Monumental. It really is the first thing that comes to mind. It's completely changed the series, right? It's never going to be the same again after the information that came out of this episode. And honestly, perhaps the most important episode of the entire series, right? Because, the one thing, I've been going on and on about this, the one thing that's been missing, or the one thing that these characters need so much, and again, in extension to the characters, us, the audience, is information, right? Especially information about the outside world, right? Outside of these walls. And finally, here at season 3, episode 20, that day, I get perhaps the most substantial info dump of the entire series. I could say with confidence this is some of the most crucial information of the entire series, right? It changes it completely. Insane, just insane. Man, Isayama-san, seriously, like I do have to. This man is incredible. Yeah, man, I'm still, I'm still kind of, my mind's still kind of blown after, all that information. And, the crazy thing is that it was the biggest info dump of the entire series, right? The most exposition, the most densely packed exposition of the series, in the span of like 22 to 21 minutes. And the insane thing is that it did not feel like it was too much. I mean, there was a lot there, and I certainly had to go, open it up again and scroll through it again a few times so I could make the analysis and discussion portion much more comprehensive for you guys and for myself as well. Let's not forget, I am a fan of the show and this incredible story, so I do want to get as much as I can out of it, right? Yeah, on that end, yeah. Right? There's a lot of bullet points, a lot of notes here. Essentially, the moment an episode finishes, this is my process. I don't know if I've gone into it before. The moment an episode ends, I've just got a plethora of ideas and information in my mind, right? And the first thing I do is I move on to my side table and just kind of like regurgitate everything that's in my mind at the moment, right? And the best and the fastest, the goal is to get it out as soon as possible on paper. And the main reason for that is so I don't miss anything that I want to talk about. From time to time I'll notice sometimes I'll miss something I wanted to talk about, and I'll realize it later, right? And I think I'm pretty good at kind of going back to it in the next episode, right, and bringing it back up. But yeah, that's my process. I'll just kind of again regurgitate everything onto a piece of paper, just bullet points, so you can kind of do it really quick. And then from those bullet points, I can usually kind of build on from there. But as long as I have like one line of, like a bullet point describing this thing I have in my mind, this idea, that's usually more than enough. And yeah, this one, it's quite a bit. So I'll be referring to this, but I usually cut that. Because I don't really like having dead air. Now, let's see. I think the best place to begin in such a dense episode has to be the ending, right? Let's begin there. And then let's see how it all plays out. So many different tangents, so many different directions to go in. So let's just begin on the ending. And I think it's safe to assume that that is Eren Titan. Now, I'm calling it Eren Titan because that's the name I've given it since I've known Eren as a Titan shifter, right? Eren Titan, because the show itself hasn't, or the anime itself hasn't given me a name for it yet. I feel like I might find out soon though, because now it's just the owl, Kruger, and Grisha, right? Because right at the end there, this double agent, right? Deep undercover for decades. Insane. His commitment to the cause and to this facade is commendable. Seriously, like he put in years, decades into this. And he was so committed. And he was so committed to not blowing that cover that he actually had to do some of the most terrible things himself. Like, he made sure to do some of these terrible things himself. He didn't go easy on young Grisha, right? In the beginning of the episode, right? He offered, or it wasn't really an offer. It was more of like, do you want to take a beating or labor, right? he didn't go easy on him. So much so that this other guy, this Commander Gross, right? More on him later. Just a despicable person, but also kind of interesting in a few for a few different reasons. But yeah, so much so that this guy, this despicable person, is telling Kruger to go easy on him, right? And again, they show it once again as Grisha is getting tortured and getting his fingers chopped off, right? And it's not just Grisha. You see some of the other patriots. They have their hands covered up, right? And the fingers are missing. This other guy, Grice, the one who kind of first brought Grisha into the underground, right? This, the revolution, right? The Patriots. So, yeah, he was so committed to this cover that he just spent decades probably doing some terrible things to his own people, right? But again, that's the price, right? That's the cost of having someone on the inside. And if you've been following my journey of this series since season 1, you know how much I love the concept of sleeper agents or double agents, right? I brought that concept up in season 1, in the first 12 to 15 episodes. I think at some point, from episodes 9 to 15, I started bringing that concept up, of sleeper agents, infiltrating and embedding within the system in the ranks, right? And yeah, that was that was such an exciting thought, to know or to think about possibilities that there could be someone that has a totally different agenda, but they seamlessly kind of blend it in, and that's how the Owl or Kruger executed this, right? Man, insane. Now, going back to the Titan form, clearly, I mean, there's only one possibility here. Eren becomes Eren Titan, and Eren Titan looks like this, right? Though one of the main difference is the ears, right? He has the elf ears, much like Grisha's Titan, and much like the Beast Titan, Zeke, his half brother. So that's confirmed, right? That is insane. I brought up that possibility in the last 2 episodes, but it's kind of insane that it's actually confirmed now. Yeah. But see, the crazy thing here is that he has to give it to Grisha, right? This Titan, the one that resembles Eren Titan, is the Titan. I'm quite sure that this person, this Owl, this Kruger fellow, he's going to pass this on to Grisha, right? And then it's all starting to come together now, right? You can see Grisha's clothing. It's the same clothing he had on as he showed up outside of the walls, right? And the Keith saw him there. This is it. This is the missing piece. And I've been asking for this, and they gave it to me. I have it. So, of course, he needs to... I mean, Grisha's probably absolutely just baffled at the moment. So this Kruger fellow is going to have to explain a few things. That's for sure. And then, at some point, Grisha is going to take that Titan, right? Because the one thing that was established is that he was a Titan shifter as he arrived outside of those walls, right? Because you simply cannot be roaming around in human form. That's just not going to happen. And again, there was clear signs that he didn't become a Titan shifter inside the walls, right? So things that need to happen. This Eren Titan, let's just keep calling it that for now. It has to be transferred to Grisha at some point, right? Meaning he has to consume this fellow patriot, right? Kruger, who's just cool as hell, man. I just love this concept of him being undercover for decades, man. But yeah, so Grisha needs to get the Titan, right? And I suppose he's going to continue on that mission then, right? Or I mean, initially or originally, his grand plan was to get Zeke, his son, to enlist, right? Essentially, he wanted Zeke to be a double agent, right? To be a sleeper agent, act as if he's, he's proud to be part of this Marley nation, right? To represent them, but then have a different agenda, right? So again, there is a prospect of another sleeper agent, and I have. I have a whole different section on Zeke. Fascinating character. Let's get to that in a bit. But circling back to Grisha ending up outside the walls, he's going to continue on this mission clearly, right? He knows about the founding Titan. Like, I mean, it's so clear. There's some insane information coming out of this. So he continues on that mission, right? To go to this. I mean, now there's two spellings for this, right? The Marley people, they keep calling it paradise, and that's the irony of this. It's more of a hell than paradise, but they keep calling it that on purpose. But there was the other spelling seemed to be the actual name of the island, and it really resembles paradise, right? But it had a different spelling. And I believe they pronounce it paradis. I had to go back and pick it up and listen to it a few times. It sounded like they were calling it paradis. So I'm just gonna have to take their pronunciation for it because I don't discuss any of this stuff outside of recording it. So I'll pronounce it the way the show or the characters in the show are pronouncing. So yeah, paradis, and then they the Marley people kind of jokingly call it paradise. See, he showed up at the walls not knowing or not remembering much, right? The whole concept, or it's not a concept. It's a given. Once you become a time shifter, you have some sort of memory loss, right? Most recently, I saw Armin experience this. So it appears that he wasn't lying back in episode 11. I was trying to figure out if he's holding back some information on purpose, and he actually still might have been doing that, but it appears that he just recently became a Titan shifter, so he's continuing on that mission, right? To go inside the walls and perhaps locate the founding Titan at some point. And he certainly locates it. He certainly gets to it at some point. But yeah, he doesn't get right to it though, does he? He takes his time. He spends a lot of his life in there, right, before he actually gets to the underground chapel. So it really is kind of crazy to look back at that chapel scene again of Grisha showing up underground, trying to convince or plead with Rodrice or Frida, the founding Titan holder at that moment, because he knows who they are. He knows the Marley nation sent those people, and the crazy thing is they're not even Marley or Marleyan people. They're Eldians, right? The Eldians are these people, the subjects of Ymir, apparently, right? So Reiner, Bertolt, Annie, and the late Marcel, they're all Eldians, right? And they're here on their behalf, right? On the Marley nation's behalf. So it's just also fucked up, right? That they've been brainwashed to an extent that, you know, it does appear that they are trying to prove themselves different from this evil race or their evil ancestors or filthy ancestors, right? Spawn of the devil. And, you know, in the last episode, I theorized that I think Annie might be actually one of these people from this race, right? The race they considered, you know, evil and spawn of the devil. It turns out all of them are Eldians. Eldians, all of them, including Reiner. Insane, man, insane. And the reason all of them are Eldians is because apparently only subjects of Ymir can become titans, right? And all it takes is a bit of titan fluid, as this major gross showcases, right? On that last Titan, the one, and that Titan is around in season 1, right? Actually, it appears that all of these patriots, or at least three of them that I know for sure, show up in season 1, right? They're part of the first line of Titans that make it in after the Colossal Titan kicks in the gate, right? The Santa Titan, this bowl cut Titan, kind of like a mullet almost, right? The inquisitive looking one, right? And then of course Dinah, the smiling Titan. Just insane that it's been confirmed. It's kind of tragic, actually. So tragic. You know, I know it brought a lot of pain and suffering, but it is actually so tragic that is Dinah Fritz, a royal, right? But also, you know, Grisha's love of his life, right? And even in such a dark moment, in such a brutal moment, you know, there was this happy. She kind of goes out on a happy note almost, right? Like, I'll find you. No matter what, I'll find you in any form. Crazy stuff, man. You know, is that the reason? Is that the reason it has a smile on his face? Because as Dinah got injected, she did have a smile on her face, right? She was happy in that moment, right? Because she knew she's gonna find Grisha. Unfortunately, or you know, interestingly, she does kind of get attracted to. She didn't get attracted to Grisha per se, but she was attracted to that house, right? Grisha's house. And then later in the season 2 finale, or even, you know, in episode 11, season 2 episode 11, in the conclusion, she shows up at that exact moment, right? And you know, in past episodes, I've, you know, theorized that she was attracted to Eren, or she just, you know, she had the urge to go towards Eren. And of course Eren is Grisha's offspring, right? So maybe if there's some kind of connection that it could sense, or she could sense in this Titan form. And you know, unfortunately, yeah, she ended up killing Grisha's new wife, Eren's mother. And you know, the thing I distinctly remember is that she killed Carla. Like, she, you know, well, she kind of snapped her in half essentially, but it's brutal. But you know, she didn't just straight up eat her alive. She did kill her. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that was a choice. I don't know if no, I don't think that's not a smart Titan, but it was. I feel like it might be a bit more sentient than some of these other mindless Titans that some of these other Patriots became, right? And again, that comes from. I think that might come from the fact that she is royal blood, right? Now, circling back to the owl, Kruger. Now the question becomes, how did he infiltrate this Marley, or how did he infiltrate the Marley ranks as an Eldian, right? That couldn't have that could not have been easy. Like, how did he pull that off? Hopefully this next episode can answer that or shed some light on that. And how did he become this Titan shifter in the first place? So in terms of the Titans, there's meant to be 9 total, right? And this Marley nation said that they had 7 under their command or under their control, right? Let's list them out. Beast Titan, right? Armor Titan, Colossal Titan, Female Titan, Ymir Titan, that was Marcel's Scout Titan, right? And 7. Now 7. Does Eren Titan count as number 7? Because I think it has to. I think Eren Titan has to count as number 7 because this 9th Titan, right? Because Titan number 8 is the founding Titan. And that's not here. That's in Para D, right? So that's 8. There's one missing. This 9th Titan. Now, see, the crazy thing is it's hard to tell if they have that under their control or if this is just something new altogether, like a new character they haven't introduced yet, and then this Titan is not under anyone's control. Perhaps that could be kind of cool. But see, that's the tricky part. Do I count? It's possible that, you know, this unknown Titan could be their Titan. They could have it under their control, but they just haven't shown us yet, the audience, at this point in time. 7 out of 9. But again, the easy option here is to just say that Eren Titan was meant to be one of the 7 that they had under control, but then Kruger was able to get that somehow, right? Since they haven't shown me this final Titan, this 9th Titan, I can't really bring it into the count, I think, into Marley's 7 count. So yeah, so that, you know, that makes up 7. Regardless, you know, you can switch out this mysterious Titan or you can switch out the Eren Titan. That makes 7, right, for Marley. And then, you know, that leaves 2 out. Either Eren Titan and this mysterious Titan plus the founding Titan, right? So that's 2 that they don't have, but they had 7. Of course, they lost the Colossal Titan just recently. And the female Titan, they haven't really lost it, but they don't have use of it at the moment. I'm not sure if they're ever going to get use of it ever again. Who knows? Depends at what point Annie might come back into the story, right? Now, staying on the Titans, the 7 Titans that the Marley people had on their side, how did they even manage this? Like, how do you even pull something like that off? A 7 Titan swing in their favor? Especially, you know, given the history that they're, you know, putting out there of these Eldian people. They've depicted a ruthless conquerors type history for the Eldians, right? So, like, how do you pull that off? How do you bring in 7 Titans from the other side, right? It feels like it's being left out by design, how the Marley people manage this 7 Titan swing. You certainly need a few of them to start defecting to, you know, this side for that to even, you know, take off or start to happen. Now, you know, this great Titan war, you know, looking back at the image, you can see Titans on either side of the conflict, the battle. So it's Titans against Titans in that. So it even feels like it kind of looked like there's some kind of infighting going on, perhaps. You know, there's some conflict within the Eldian Titans, because, you know, in this history they did specify that the Eldian Empire was born after Ymir passed, and, you know, and then passed on her 9 Titans, right? So it appears that at one point in time, Ymir had all 9 Titans be part of her, or all 9 abilities. be part of her, and then after her death, it passed on to 9 candidates, right? Eldians, subjects of Ymir, and then the Eldian Empire was kind of established, right? Now, if you're to believe the Marley take on this, their official story on this, these ruthless conquerors that oppressed the Marley nation, and they procreated by force, or they raped people just so they could increase their numbers and multiply. It's quite the harsh history they've established in these history books of theirs. Now, of course, it's quite clear that this is propaganda. It's quite harsh, it's quite extreme, the way they depict them in this. And this propaganda is clearly being used throughout this place. Marley, that is, as a brainwashing tool, right? As a propaganda tool. And in that sense, you can see how people like Reiner and Bertolt and some of these other warrior crew grew up learning this, right? About their ancestors, the dark past of their ancestors, the sins of their ancestors, right? Right. So all of this kind of has to be taken with a pinch of salt, given that the winners write the history, right? Or the story of how it played out. So it's crazy how they've established this dark history for these Eldian people. Again, I don't believe this is the truth, completely the truth. There could be some truth to it. Imagine having powers like that, to be a titan larger than life, a god. You could see how people could be corrupted by that and could get notions of conquering, right? It's possible. There could be some truth in there, but I feel like it's really harsh. It's depicted so in such a dark light, in a bad light for the Eldian people. In that sense, it takes you back to Commander Smith and his take on the history books inside the walls, right? He said they should stay objective and not try to establish anything as the definitive truth, right? It didn't feel like it was objective, it was clearly, you could tell it's propaganda. A lot of it is just kind of fluffed up and made up. Now, of course, Grisha also learns about a totally different type of Eldian history later, right? One that is much more favorable to their people. One that paints Ymir in a totally different type of light, right? In this take on that history, or in this take on Ymir's history, or the Eldian history, she is depicted as someone quite influential, actually, in terms of developing these lands, and is set to bring people together, to connect people, to help people by bridging mountains, by building roads, right? And establishing these lands, being quite influential in the process of establishing these lands. And there's no mention of any contract with this devil type being that's been brought up once again. No deal with the devil in this version of it. Now, of course, this is the version I would like to believe in, but I can't. I can't, because I do have to take this one with a pinch of salt as well, because of course Eldians wrote this, right? So it's going to be favorable to them, just like the Marley take is favorable to their people, right? So, and Grisha admitted as much. Like he admitted that he can't actually decipher most of it, right? But he chooses to have that faith in their founder Ymir. Right, so in that sense, he was kind of sounding like a fanatic, and he kind of convinced the other patriots as well, right? It really gave them the drive and the belief to, soldier on this crusade of theirs. So yeah, it was kind of sounding fanatical, to have this blind faith in the founder Ymir, right? Essentially, I can't consider any of these to be the definitive, stories on Ymir and the Eldian Marley conflict. It's just until I actually get to see those stories, right, directly, somehow, it's tough to say, right? Who's right, who's wrong. In that sense, both, at one point I got quite excited. I got the fist pump going, but that was more so because it really sucked to see Grisha go through all those things, right? So to see him in that position, inspiring these other people, that really got me excited and got me hyped. Yeah, I do want them to fight back, that's for sure. They're oppressed by these Marley people, but their intentions are, it's kind of like a cycle. It's kind of like a cycle. So they also want to kind of get back at the Marley people or Marleans. And what if they end up oppressing them next, right? So it's this vicious cycle almost. They certainly had quite a bit of anger towards them, right? So, and this major gross at the end kind of almost rightfully, you could say, called out Grisha, right? He's like, oh, don't you have any remorse because you had some grand plans for the Marley people, right? Right, so in that sense, both sides kind of had the same kind of plans for each other. So in this case, Grisha can't deny that, right? But yeah, for the longest time, I've just, assumed or believed that, yeah, there is some kind of contract with the devil or deal with the devil, based on the stuff they've given me so far. But it appears that it is perhaps a fabricated story. Or maybe not, that's the thing though. At this point, I'm not sure, what to believe. I think the best thing to do is, of course, to not take either side as the definitive truth. Maybe a mix of both, let's see how it all plays out. But the deal with the devil business, they have depicted that imagery a few times, right? The first time I saw it in the season 2 end credits, and I'll get into that in a bit, because some of the stuff they showed in this, some of the imagery they showed in this, it implores you to go back and check out the season 2 end credits. Nay, it demands you to go check out those end credits again. And I remember having a good time kind of going through that end credit scene and constructing some thoughts on it. I remember that frame by frame I did for it in the season 1 premiere, season 1 episode 1, Beast Titan, right? Now, and then also I see that image in that book, right? Frida has that book about Krista, right? And then there the depiction is a bit different, right? Doesn't quite look like a devil figure. That one looked a bit different, right? In that storybook. So yeah, there is some kind of deal going on, some kind of first contact, that's for sure. But again, some say it's a contract with the devil, and then in the storybook Frida had, it didn't quite seem like it was a deal with the devil, right? Now, speaking of memories and history, I knew Eren's memories, or Eren having the potential to relive memories, is definitely, I just knew it's going to be used at some point to or it's going to be used for exposition at some point. It was just too enticing of a prospect to not explore further, right? And it finally happened in this episode. This whole concept of him being able to relive memories was used quite effectively, actually. Now, at one moment in time, he just he wakes up from this long dream. He said it felt like a really long dream, much like he said in episode 1 of the series, right? As Mikasa's leaning over him, and at that point in time, he also has tears in his eyes. So similar thing has happened here, right? So much so that he almost forgot who he was for a little bit, right? He specifically said, "Who am I?" Right? He got so lost in those memories that he couldn't even remember that he's Eren. Perhaps he became his father in those memories, right? It was so, again, he's reliving them, right? And I wonder if this is triggered by looking at that photo, or if it's triggered by just reading through the journals. But yeah, it's insane, right? I can't remember if I said it in the last episode or the episode before that, or maybe even further back, that that memory of him, or that moment of him reliving a memory as Frida, or through Frida's eyes, at that point I said it almost felt like he got transported in a moment in time, right? That's why this one might have felt like such a long dream, right? And he didn't even remember who he was because he was gone for so long in this dream. But it's actually memories that he's reliving. Now, staying on that, they have shown me that he can relive some other memories. They don't have to be just his father's memories. He did have a moment, as I just mentioned, with Frida, right? That moment in time, transported in that moment in time. So could this tool be used even further at some point to give me some more, going even further back, give me some more background information, give me some more of that history, give me that real history, not from these history books that, that is handcrafted by the person writing it, be it Eldian or Marley Nation. I feel like Eren experiencing actual memories, connected through this founding titan that he has in him, perhaps, could shed some light on that. Hopefully, I feel like this is just scratching the surface. Surely this isn't a one and done. In terms of Eren reliving memories, and in extension to that, us the audience getting background information, or flashbacks or backstories, right, through that concept of him reliving memories. Yes, I should bring it up again that they tried to establish that no, Eren cannot access these memories, or he has no ability to tap into these memories or history of the world. But come on, it's gonna happen again. It's too enticing to not explore this even more, even beyond him just experiencing his own father's memories. And one of the things that was able to lock some of these memories for him is the touch, right? The touch with Rod Race and Historia Race. Now, again, it's I think this episode has now confirmed a pretty long running theory, I guess, or concept, that the founding titan, or the contact with not the founding titan, the Smiling Titan, the contact with the Smiling Titan allowed him to unlock the abilities of the coordinate, or the Scream at that point in time in the season 2 finale. So now, yet another royal family member has been confirmed in this episode. His half brother is Zeke. Now, imagine. No, okay, what if he actually made contact with Zeke, or the Zeke or the Beast Titan? What happens then? He touched the Smiling Titan, Zeke's mom, and he had the abilities of the founding titan unlocked. So imagine in the battle for Shiganshina, if he came in contact with Zeke or the Beast Titan at some point, I think some crazy shit could have gone down. but it was clever. You know, they kept him apart for the most part in that battle for Shiganshina, didn't they? Until right at the end, comes face to face with Eren, right before he kind of retreats. So I think it's a good time to jump to Zeke and Dinah and Grisha. Unfortunately, Grisha and Dinah messed up. Right, they failed their responsibility, or they failed as parents, and they failed their responsibilities as parents. And Grisha, admitted as much. He admitted that essentially he didn't look at him as his son, before any of these other things, right? Essentially, they were grooming him to be this tool in their, political belief, right? This tool in the crusade to bring back the Eldian Empire. This incredible burden is being forced on to Zeke's shoulders at such an early age, and you could see then and there how baffled he is and how rattled he is. You could tell, in the manner of the drawing or the animation, in his face. That was just not going to end on a happy note. And again, yeah, I do think Grisha failed as a father in that sense. And he kind of let, though again, he was real about it with himself. He admitted to those mistakes. He let that cycle, kind of go on. His father tried to, push these beliefs on him, right? As crazy as they might have sounded, this whole history about the Eldians being these, filthy race and doing these terrible things. Now on the flip side, he's doing the same thing to Zeke. He's he's feeding him a different story, and Zeke might be feeling the same thing at that moment in time. And in that sense, you can understand how he got to that point of, feeling like he was brainwashed by his father, by Grisha, right? You could see how he got to that point. And the crazy thing is, even during Zeke's birth, of course, it's a beautiful moment, but even then, Grisha's already going on about how this child is going to save us one day, or he's going to lead us to victory one day. But there is some interesting stuff that could kind of, or interesting tangents that could still come out of something like that. But before I move on to the I don't know, to me it's exciting, but let's see. Essentially, it was bound to happen, right? At that age, he was probably just petrified, right? About this, and he probably thought of his grandparents, and again, Grisha confirmed, right? He chose his grandparents and himself to protect them. And, that one scene of him pointing at his parents, right? So he's got his grandparents right behind him, but then there's another person, right, that seems to be crying. That's on his left side, right? He's on one knee and he's got glasses, and he seemed to have like a like a lab coat, right? So some kind of doctor, some kind of scientist, some kind of person who has a connection to Zeke, even at that age, some kind of mentor, perhaps a teacher, maybe. He did have glasses though, right? So yeah, let's see who that is. They haven't, they didn't mention it at all. They just showed him in that frame. So, in that scene, as they're, telling Zeke all about the real Eldian history, and, and they're telling him how he has to behave and how he has to go about accomplishing this, Grisha said, more so than anyone else, you have to make sure to obey everything they say, right? To really establish yourself in this clan or this crew, the warrior crew. So even after giving up his parents, he did continue on that path, did he not? So that's interesting. I find that interesting that he still continued on that path, right? Not only did he continue on that path, he actually excelled quite a bit, and he ended up becoming the war chief. Quite a distinguished position, right? Now, I think the natural conclusion to this is, based on the things they've shown me in this episode, is that this was an attempt for him to distance himself from his disgrace, from the actions of his disgraced father, right? And prove himself to the Marley people or Marley hierarchy, right? And perhaps remove that stain from his name, and also in extension, maybe help his grandparents out, right? Make them honorary Marleyans. Shit, I'll have to get used to that. Because in one of those scenes they did bring up this concept of, oh, if you were looking for subjects of Ymir, if you're down for this, if you're ready to commit yourself to this cause, there's some perks, right? So it's possible that he was just trying to clean himself and rid himself of the shame that he thought his father brought, right? And growing up probably wasn't easy either for him. I'm sure he got a tough time from fellow Eldians as well, for having a father who tried something like that, something so radical, something so upsetting to the balance at the moment, right? Because as shown through Grisha's father, there are Eldians, and probably a lot of them that are fine. I mean, it's a terrible situation to be in, but his father, he was fine with just being humble, staying under the radar, not making any noise, and just again living a humble life, right? In their current situation. That was his father. That was Grisha's father, right? And of course, there's gonna be many like that. So in that sense, going back to that comment about him freaking out and telling Grisha that the walls are thin, you can't even trust other Eldians because they're petrified of being associated with radical notions, right? So they might even snitch or out you. So yeah, these radical notions could bring a lot of shame, or it could hurt you in the community they have there. And I believe they call it Liberio, right? And that was just one of the camps, apparently, because as that Marley guy got up there and started talking about how they're selecting subjects to Ymir, he said camps from all over the continent, right? So this is the one they focus on because the characters of focus, Grisha and his family, are here. Now then, that's one possibility, right? That he wants to prove himself, that he's not like his ancestors, and he's not like his father and his dangerous and radical notions. Much like how Reiner, asked Annie to prove herself, that she's not like these filthy people, this filthy race, right? So in that sense, it's kind of insane that this propaganda is so deep-seated and so effective that these Eldians, they certainly believe it. They're at a point that they simply have to believe it, right? Some genuinely might believe it, and some just kind of play along and believe it, right? As to stay out of trouble, stay out of the spotlight, under the radar, right? And in that sense, it's even possible that there's got to be Marley people or Marleyans that are sympathetic towards the current, treatment of the Eldians, but they don't dare speak out on it, right? Because I think it'd be kind of unrealistic that no Marleyan has any sympathy for them, right? If there's a really distinct parallel, as I said in the last episode, to a specific time in our history, a dark time in our history. And even then, there were really good German people that risked their lives to, aid and perhaps hide Jewish people, right? you could die. You could hang for something like that, or you could end up in front of a firing squad for aiding the enemy, right? So I feel like that's possible in this as well. It is quite grounded. So I think there's got to be Marlene people out there that are sympathetic, but they don't show it, right? But I think it could be cool if at some point there are some Marlene characters that understand that this is wrong and speak out on it. I think that could be really cool. I would really like that. Um, you know, uh, it's too early in this season. There's only 2 more episodes left, but hopefully, this season 4, I think it could be quite cool if they start going in that direction. That some people do start speaking up, or they do start showing some people that clearly understand that this is wrong, right? To do this to people, to treat people like this, unforgivable, right? Now then, let me circle back to Zeke and him going through with that plan even after giving up his parents. The first one, it's been established, right? To rid himself of that smudge on his name, right? Now then, this other possibility, this is more so a personal hope of mine, and it's an exciting prospect. Is it possible that as he grew older and became more in line with how things really are for the Eldians and really start to understand just how badly these people are treated, right? His people are treated. And is it possible that, with age, he started to realize that at that point in time, at that age, he just wasn't able to understand or comprehend the things his father and mother are telling him, right? Is it possible that as he aged and as he grew up and as he learned how the world really is and how cruel it really is it possible that he finally understood what they tried all that time ago? So is it possible that he did actually end up following that plan eventually, right? And he did become this impressive member of their crew, the warrior crew, and then he elevated himself to the position of war chief, right? Distinguished position. Is it possible that he is running his own long con, right? Much like Kruger, who is deep in character and deep behind enemy lines, right? As the sleeper agent, as the double agent, and again, Kruger had to do some terrible things to keep up those appearances. Is it possible? Is this exciting prospect possible that Zeke might be doing his own thing and that he might have his own plans for the coordinate or the founding titan? And again, a major obstacle to all of this is the fact that he was in the Battle of Shiganshina. He was out there killing these people, right? Again, yeah, that is quite an obstacle. And and then the conversation he had with Eren about about their father, or Grisha Jaeger, brainwashing them both. He said that, right? He still believed that, unless he's still just keeping up appearances and he's really committing to it, just like Kruger. I don't know, man. I feel like, and the fact that he's a royal and he has royal blood, I feel like it's impossible for that not to play a role at some point. It simply has to. So I suppose that's one of my theories for this, that Zeke might actually be doing his own thing, and there's more than meets the eye at this point. To me, that's just such an exciting thought, that all this time later, that he might actually do something, Of course, as a young child, it was not fair to put that on him, right? And you simply cannot blame him for outing his parents like that, right? He was petrified, as a child. He knew because in school they probably teach you all kinds of crazy things, right? Those are the books. Those are like the officially commissioned books that they put out, and that has that really dark history of the Eldians in it. So as a child, if that's what you're learning and everyone else around you knows that as the truth, then of course you're going to be scared. If your parents start going on about something else entirely, right? And try to set everything on your shoulders. But again, with age comes wisdom, right? So that, to me, that is a really exciting possibility or prospect. That he could have his own agenda at this point in time. It's not as clear cut as him just being completely on the Marley side. I would hope not. I would hope at his age, at current age, he has had thoughts of the treatment of the Eldian people. But as of this point, he's certainly showing a lot of loyalty towards towards the Marleyan people, right? As their war chief. But I think this is an exciting prospect to keep an eye out on, or for. Zeke Yeager of royal blood, right? And this story is really suited for that kind of concept, right? Of people infiltrating from opposing sides, right? And in that sense, is it not also possible that someone from the Marleyan side snuck in through the Exodus, right? The Exodus of the first king, right? And the people he took with him to this new paradise, right? Paradis. So, history is kind of repeating itself in so many different aspects at this point. Sins of the father seems to be a big one. And yeah, like Zeke said in I think it might have been Perfect Game or Hero, I think, that history might keep repeating itself over and over because they don't know anything about it, right? They're doomed to repeat it. But, at this moment in time, just like depicted in the Eldian history and those, old school tapestry type illustrations, there's titans, right? Titan shifters on each side of the conflict. But they're Eldians, right? They're fighting each other. But, one part of, or one half, or some of those Eldians are fighting on the Marleyan's behalf, right? So in that sense, history is repeating itself again, right? You've got Titans on one side, right? The people within the walls, Paradis, and then you've got a few Titans on this side as well. Though they've lost a few, right? Or they certainly lost the Colossal Titan, and then they lost the Ymir Titan, but as of this point, I have to assume she's gone, and they, took it back. And beyond history repeating itself, there seems to be quite a strong theme of the dreams of a father, right? Or the path a father has chosen for their child, right? Or how much it's affected the path their child takes in life. You've got Zeke and Grisha as an example. Then you've got Grisha and Eren as another example, right? Then you've got the commander and his father, right? Commander Smith, that is. And there's even Annie and her father, right? And then you've also got Historia and Rodrice. She did struggle with that concept for a bit once she got reunited with him. So yeah, that's a theme that's played out in this series as well. Now, speaking of Grisha, yes, he failed as a parent. He failed his responsibilities as a parent pertaining to Zeke. But he did learn from that mistake. He did. He didn't take that approach with Eren. And, that's one of the things I've been talking about since my mid-season finale, episode 12, I think. Or maybe even before that. That it should be noted that he didn't push anything on him, right? So much so that it was noticeable. It makes sense now, right? He tried the opposite approach. He learned his lesson, right? The second time, With his second son, he didn't take that same approach he took with Zeke. You could tell he regrets that. He regrets not looking at Zeke as his son first, rather than a tool in this political belief they had. So yeah, he did learn from his mistakes, right? So the royal family now, Dina Fritz, right, or Dinah Fritz. She was part of the royal family that stayed behind, right? Made the choice to stay behind. Now, the fake king they had on the inside, right? The fake king they installed, they named him Fritz, King Fritz, right? So is that more of like a lightning rod situation, So, if the Marley people do come knocking, they could kind of protect themselves, or kind of make it a bit difficult for them to actually target the right royal family, who inside the walls is now called race. Sorry. So it appears they changed their names as to remove any sort of association with Ymir Fritz, right? It appears that Fritz is the name. That's the real deal. And race is like their new take, right? The new name they took on. Right, and then the whole pacifist stance, it's starting to make so much more sense at this point. This king, this Eldian king, decided that he's just, I guess he's sick of this. He doesn't want to do this anymore, and he decided to take some of these people over to this island, right? And called it Paradis. Unless it was already called that, the island of Paradis. And he started these walls, right? This new community. As Yuri said, failed to build paradise within such tiny walls, right? So yeah, the first king and his pacifist stance. Now, something interesting was kind of confirmed here, right? Now, it's been clear for some time now that the walls are full of titans, right? Colossal titans, and millions of them. That's been confirmed in this episode as well, that there's millions and millions of them. Now, apparently this first king gave this parting shot, or this warning shot, right? If the Marley nation tries anything, or if they try to retaliate or come for them, right, or start anything, he'll release the millions of titans within the walls, right? And they'll flatten the earth. They'll crush everything in their path. Now, it's tough to say if I buy that, because on one end they've established that this king his pacifist stance is quite a strong one, right? So much so that he just, like I said, almost feels like he lives on through these recipients of the founding titan from generation to generation to make sure that they're controlled by this. So is someone like that actually capable of doing this, releasing millions and millions of colossal titans to just destroy everything? Maybe, but it's just insane, man. It's insane. And, for that reason, regardless of if he would do it or not, it seems to be effective, right? Because they had to, take a different approach. They had to send sleeper agents to infiltrate and, take that approach rather than attacking them head on. They snuck in, Reiner, Annie, Bertolt, and even Zeke snuck in at one point. You can understand how the Eldians left behind on Marley, they would feel that they are abandoned, or they were left behind by this first king. You really do have to feel for them, because their living conditions and their treatment is just unforgivable. So you can also understand if they have a hate for the Eldians inside Paradis, or on Paradis, right? So yeah, a lot of interesting things going on here. Now, speaking of royals, at the end there, it was clear that they don't know that Dinah was a royal, right? Grisha almost blew it, though he doesn't. He didn't even know. He thought he's doing something good, by bringing that to their attention. Maybe they'll spare her. But if they spare her, it wasn't gonna be for anything good. I don't think. But of course, Kruger jumped in just at the right moment and shut him up. So yeah, Kruger let it happen. They turned Dinah, the last descendant of the royal family on this continent, to turn into a Titan and just kind of drift off. So in that sense, I think Zeke knows he's a royal, right? I believe they must have told him around the time they're trying to, just tell him about the actual history they believe, the Eldian history they believe to be true. They must have told him he's special because he has royal blood, and for that reason he can, take on the founding Titan, right? Because you need to be of royal blood to be able to control that. Now they didn't specify if these people know that. I'm sure Dinah must know that, right? But again, they also don't know about the whole pacifist stance, living on through the recipients of the founding Titan, right? But still, it appears that Zeke might know he's a royal, right? And in that sense, does him being royal actually play a part in his abilities as the Beast Titan? Does that give him anything extra? Again, since season 2, it was clear that he has this ability to create Titans. Is that part of being the Beast Titan, right? He can create his own Titans and kind of control them or have some manner of control over them. Is this specific to the Beast Titan? Or is this because he has royal blood and it allows him to make use of this, right? It gives him a little something extra because he is of royal blood. That'll be interesting to see if I think he's got to know. I'm sure they told him around the time they're trying to, really feed him the narrative that he's special because he has royal blood. But the question becomes, do they know? Do they know Zeke has royal blood? That's the question here. And unfortunately, I haven't, at this point in time, I've only seen this Marley place in the past through this flashback, through this memory recalled or Eren reliving these memories. So I need to see Zeke in the current timeline back in Marley at some point, if they start going into that kind of concept or into that part of the story. So it'll be interesting to see if they know he's royal. But the fact that Kruger wanted to hide that from them, that Dinah is royal, leads me to believe that maybe Zeke might be keeping that to himself, Let's see. Here's the thing, you know how I brought up this whole possibility of Zeke doing the long con, him having his own plans for the coordinate or founding Titan or just other plans, right? And that he might not be as devoted to the Marley people as they believe. If it turns out that he is holding that information from them, that he has royal blood, then I think at that point it starts becoming really interesting. Then I could really push this theory further, right? If there is some sign of information not being shared, right? So let's see how that plays out. Hopefully I get to see Zeke back there. Earlier, I mentioned that, of course, some of the imagery in this really implores you to, think back to the imagery from the season 2 end credits. Now, two specific frames just, jumped right out at me. Those are the first two frames that came at me after some of the stuff I saw in this. The first one, the pilgrimage. I clearly remember talking about some of these frames looking like a bunch of people, or not looking like it did have a bunch of people, just kind of like traveling. And I described it as a lot of people being displaced, right? And perhaps you're on a pilgrimage to these monolithic walls, right? But it turns out I was kind of spot on for at least half of it. It was a pilgrimage, it was meant to be this first king, the Eldian king. Well, he's the first king of the walls, that is. Him and some of these people, some of these other Eldians, perhaps some of these noble families as well, right? Going to this new place, new home on Paradis Island, right? So yeah, that was a good call, I'd say. A pilgrimage of a lot of displaced people, displaced from their homes. Now then, the second one that I, have to get into again is the shot of the three girls. And at this point, my theory on that. I've established that I think those three girls are Rose, Maria, and Cinna. And I said that again in my season 2 end credits frame by frame, right? That was like 2 years ago at this point. I think 2018. I said that back then. So if you're new and you're seeing this for the first time, you're gonna have to go check out some of my older stuff, because there is quite a extensive lore at this point, through my discussions and stuff and reactions. So I mean, if this is the first time you're seeing my content, it might be a bit jarring, I guess, because you don't know how it built up to this, right? But people who've been following me for a few years, they know the theories I've been making and how I've developed it as the story has progressed. Now, even back then, my theory was that, they're taking part in this cannibalistic ritual, and that was clear to see, of course, right? But the thing is, I said, the walls are named after these three girls, and it just made sense. They're showing three girls on screen in that specific frame, and I surmised that, there's a good chance this is these are the girls the walls are named after, Rose, Maria, and Cinna. Now, the interesting thing is that they are taking part in a cannibalistic ritual, and at that point in time, I have to assume they're inside Paradis, right? And are they? Can I assume that? I mean, the reason I'm assuming that is because they put up the walls and they named them after these three girls, who I strongly feel are the ones in that frame. They're taking part in a ritual. And I've also maintained that they're that first king's daughters. That was my theory from all that time ago. But if the first king had the founding titan, right? Wouldn't they be, as crazy as it sounds, if the first king had the founding titan, wouldn't they be consuming him, right, in a ritual? And again, the interesting thing about this is that it's three of them doing it at the same time, rather than the one person, right? The passing it down from generation to generation, the Rice family, that is. And then I questioned at what point did it become a single transfer, right? Rather than these three taking it at the same time. Now, I said the person standing behind them is the king, the first king. But, if the first king had the founding titan, they would have to be eating him or consuming him. So that can't be the first king, can it? Standing behind them. Could be the first king on the table, maybe. Right? Again, that's all assuming if that is inside Paradis. It's possible it could be before that, before they actually go into Paradis. But again, the fact that all three are doing it at the same time is quite interesting. So, and the other thing I brought up is that, does that mean all three of them are getting parts of it, the founding titan? How do you get parts of the founding titan? I don't think all three could have the founding titan or the coordinate, right? There's only one coordinate. So you can't split that up in three. Though, in this episode, they did kind of show me or confirm that, one titan can hold, or one person can hold a bunch of titans. Now, again, this is a really special person, Ymir Fritz. They said, once she passed or died, her spirit was split up and given to 9 different Eldians, right? So those are the 9 titans that we know of. But again, that's Ymir Fritz. That is, the founder. That's a special person. Now, in this, season 2 end credits frame, you have these 3 girls. Again, I believe Maria, Rose, and Cinna. They're consuming someone, and if it is the founding titan ritual, now a few of these things are kind of clashing, because you can't give 3 people the founding titan or the coordinate, right? So there is something missing here. Something else. Something's going on here, right? Something interesting is going on there. I mean, I know, I established like 2 years ago that, yeah, it's a cannibalistic ritual. And then, it's perhaps them taking on the founding titan. But then, how do you split that up into 3? So that seems unlikely. So they're certainly taking part in like a titan shifter cannibalistic ritual. But it doesn't seem to be just one specific titan, though, right? The founding titan, but it is one person on that slab that they are consuming, right? So interesting. Let's keep an eye out on that frame from 2 years ago. Well, 2 years from me, at least. It came out even before that, right? So it's kind of crazy that they showed a lot of these frames that they showed in this episode back in season 2's end credits, right? That shot of the colossal titans slowly kind of, just stomping. And they show that again in this, as they're talking about, the first king promising that if you attack us, I'll release the millions and millions of titans. They show that imagery again. And, and speaking of some of the imagery, the titans in some of these old tapestry type imagery, I noticed the one on all fours in 2 of them, in 2 of those shots. So that's certainly supposed to be the Scout Titan, right? Then I noticed one that had a shield and a helmet. I guess you could kind of consider that to be armor, maybe, right? Armor Titan. And then they had one that had a hammer. I don't know. The hammer, is that just like a stylistic choice just to, have a hammer? Or does that have another connotation, or is that more specific to that titan? I haven't seen any titans so far that have hammers or a hammer or any sort of sword or anything. But again, the other titan did have a shield, right, in a helmet. Now then, beginning of the episode, I mentioned how this is perhaps the most crucial info drop of the entire series. It's a game changer. It's completely changed the landscape of the series from this point on. Is this the end game being set up here? The Marley Eldian conflict. Is this the grand finale of the series? Is the series going towards, one final battle, or one final, once again, Marleys and Eldians at each other's throats. Now Eren is going to, or he is starting to find out about the conflict and how these Eldians, these fellow subjects of Ymir, these fellow patriots, though not all of them are fellow patriots. It's a select group. So let's dial that back in. Some of them are patriots, right? And, in that sense, a lot of them showed up. A lot of his father's fellow patriots showed up. One of them even aided him, the Santa Titan. Unfortunately, he didn't chew the right part of Eren, so he couldn't take on the Founding Titan. But yeah, a lot of them showed up in season 1 because they were outside the walls and they got in after Colossal kicked it in, the gate that is. They wouldn't dare touch those walls, right? Now, if I'm being honest, I hope there's more to it than this. I really hope this isn't the end game. And, I have full faith in Isayama's writing to, I'm pretty sure there's still so much of the show or the series to play out. I'm sure there's so many more mindfucks, so many major, game changers coming in still that even though at this point in time it might seem like maybe this is setting up for the end game, the Marleyans and the Eldians at each other again. I feel like no, there's got to be more. There's got to be more to it than that. They certainly made it clear that there's other nations out there that the Marley nation is in conflict with, or yeah, they, though at that point in time, Grisha did say, yeah, right now they do kind of, they are dominating through the powers of the Titans, but that might be coming to an end. Even back then in a flashback, they're foreshadowing the end of the dominance of the Titan era, perhaps, as military tech is just improving and reaching new heights, so much so that they might end up surpassing the might of the Titans, to a point that the Titans might not be that big of a threat anymore. So, it's becoming a struggle for resources. They're trying to think ahead, or they're, putting some plans into motion now. And those resources happen to be at Parody Island, right? On one end, there's the Founding Titan, and then there's these resources that they need, right? Fossil fuel. That's just, there apparently is an abundance of it at Parody Island. So sooner or later, they're going to have to go back there. Let's see how that all plays out. But yeah, I feel like there's got to be something else. There's got to be something bigger than that in this series. There's still the prospect of this missing Titan, the 9th Titan. It's not clear if it's part of the Marley nation or... who could it be, man? Could it potentially be an existing character that they've already shown me? Could it be a new character they haven't shown me yet? So that's an exciting prospect. There's also the notion of this, devil-like being they've been, going on about for since season 2, right? Like, who is this? What is this being? Does it have a bigger role to play still? I feel like there's got to be something else. There's got to be something bigger than just this conflict between Marley and Eldians. And again, that's just this... that's just this perpetual cycle of hate, right? Essentially, Marley did to Eldians what the Eldians did to them, right? It also should be noted that, Ymir Fritz didn't have a role in that, if that part of their history is true, of them, oppressing people. They made sure to specify that the Eldian race was established after Ymir Fritz passed on, and then passed on the 9 Titans to 9 Eldians. Her spirit, that is, split up. And then, in this episode, you also see that Grisha and some of these patriots have the same notion or same ideas again. They want to take down the Marley nation and then kind of put them under their boot. Right? The plan certainly didn't seem peaceful or anything, right? So they wanted to retaliate against the Marleyans. So it's like a vicious cycle, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And I think one of the things they've made clear is, history repeating itself. So I think one of the things that has to play out is the concept of stopping history from repeating itself, stopping the cycles, right? These perpetual cycles that play out, be it through conflict, Eldians and Marleyans, be it through the actions of some of these characters. You had Grisha, who hated his father, but then Grisha ended up making the same mistake, and then his son hated him, right? And ended up thinking that he brainwashed him and like just wasn't a good parent to him. So I feel like there's got to be something more than just the Marleyan threat. The end game, that is. You know, Eren is now starting to find out about the real enemy, right? He asked this question all the way back in season 2, and Ymir and Reiner, I mean Ymir specifically, was kind of tippy-toeing around it, and she even said, if you think killing Reiner or Bertolt is going to do anything, then you're mistaken, right? So Eren is finally getting his answer to that question he had back in the Forest of the Giant Trees. Who the real enemy is. Yeah, he's certainly finding out. He's actually getting a first-hand look at it, right, through the memories of his father. So yeah, let's see how it all plays out. And you know, I'm sure there's 2 episodes still, so there's a lot of dense info still to get through, you know. So I'm sure I'll be using more of this info in the next 2 episodes as well, you know, to take those discussions further. It's possible I even after a long discussion, I still probably missed a few things. I can always, you know, check. I can always bring that up. If I miss something, I can always bring it up in the next discussion. The Titan serum they use for the punishment, right? The life sentence, right? The prison of flesh. They, you know, they take. I guess they take a small ship over to that island, Paradis, and you know, in that sense, I brought up that notion in the last episode. You know, they could probably even get quite close because no one's going to come outside of the walls, anyways, or not get far enough. It turns out that's exactly how they do it. They come over on a boat, on a small ship, and they inject them there and they toss them off. And that's the same treatment Ymir got back in season 2, episode 10, right? So they toss them off there, and eventually they end up roam around. For some of them, it's 60 years. Speaking of Ymir, and at some point, they do end up at the wall, right? So yeah, the Titan fluid, do they just inject one of the Titan shifters they have, right? And take that spinal fluid. They seem to have an unlimited supply, right? And they've been doing it for some time, clearly. I absolutely love the opening. You know, it was such a great stylistic choice to not have that intro. It would have been so out of place for this monumental episode. You know, just the title design kind of fades in, and that's about it. And, you know, that amazing score, menacing score starts kicking in and, you know, goes into the title card that day. That also kind of mimics the title of the first episode of the series, right? Or was that part of the name? 2,000 years later to you. I believe it's something like that, right? At least they've used that terminology in episode 1, right? That day. And I really like the parallel with young Grisha, right? He was just like Eren. I really like that touch. That you could really tell, you know, that this is how Eren got some of his personality. You know, young Grisha was quite like Eren, wasn't he? Even sounded like him, so I like that touch. And then, of course, this major, gross, despicable, absolutely despicable human, but he made an interesting point, and, you know, in fact, he even kind of clocked. I was about to say he's clocking the camera almost, but then, you know, I kind of just stopped talking because, you know, there's dialogue about to happen or about to take place. But yeah, it looked like he's clocking the camera almost, and, you know, the point was quite interesting. You know, it was about people like cruelty, right? That was the point he was making, right? That people get satisfaction out of it. It did feel like a message almost to the audience in that sense, you know. So I thought that was an interesting moment to do that. An interesting stylistic choice to have him, or make it appear that he is clocking the camera, right? Looking right at the audience. That's what it felt like, at least. The moment, even as I was seeing it, like it looked like I'm making eye contact with him. So I think that's about it for this incredible episode, a monumental episode, the best episode of second half of season 3. I mean, you know, episodes like Perfect Game, Hero, Midnight Sun, The Basement, Descent even, all really good episodes. You know, a few of them have some of the most iconic moments of the series, some of the most amazing and emotional and fulfilling moments of the series, but I feel like this is probably the best standalone episode. Like I said in the last episode, you know, I'm sure it's going to have its own inciting incident, and it's going to have its own progressions and conclusions and turning points. Yeah, man, in a span of 22 minutes, that was executed to perfection. That amount of exposition, that amount of info dump, you know, Sayama-san is most impressive. That is for sure. And I'm sure this is, again, you know, this is just the beginning of it. I'm probably going to be shocked even more down the line. And again, as many answers as I got, there's so many more questions still, right? So many mysteries still. You know, one of the ones that keeps sticking out in my mind is, how did the Marley Nation, you know, pull off the 7 Titan swing, you know, swung the pendulum in their favor? How did this happen? How did they pull this off? Again, you know, they depicted some infighting between the Eldian race, or the Eldian Titans, you know, a few Titans on each side. So it's possible they probably, you know, saw that as a chance to, you know, get some of them to defect maybe, right? But, you know, that's a major swing, man. It completely changed the tide. And again, there's a mystery of this 9th Titan who they have not revealed yet. So that promises to be really exciting. And yeah, and let's see how this continues, right? Kruger is Eren Titan by the end of this episode. He's got like a ship on his shoulders. I'm sure he's gonna kill everyone, right? Essentially, it appears that Grisha is going to leave that spot as the only man alive, because for him to take that Eren Titan from Kruger, he's gonna have to consume him, right? And he does have Eren Titan, right? He shows up as a Titan shifter outside of the walls. So next episode promises to be just as exciting, perhaps. And Eren, let's see how much more of this Eren kind of experiences through the memories of his father. Excited, really so excited. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider leaving your comments, give me your thoughts. It's you know, it's highly likely that I might have missed some things that I wanted to talk about, but might have just slipped my mind. I can always, you know, get to them in the next episode or even the finale, right? I tried my best to, you know, tackle the immense amount of information coming out of this. Took a lot of notes, right? But yeah, that was just incredible. So if you're interested in early access to the next episode right now, or maybe even full length for this episode, it's a good one to have full length for. Consider checking out the Patreon page, and in doing so, you'll be supporting the channel. Consider checking out the pinned comment. It has links to that Patreon page, and it has links to my social media as well. So, you know, check it out from time to time, and the pinned comment does have updates as well if there needs to be an update. So yeah, that's about it. Incredible episode, a monumental episode. You know, Isayama is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So thanks for joining me for this one. I hope to see you soon for the next one. Take it easy.